paternity test sat on my desk at Riverside Church, right next to the sermon I'd written about keeping promises. 0% probability. 20 years of Sundays, and I'd been preaching a lie I didn't even know I was living. The envelope was thick medical grade paper. You could feel the weight of what was inside before opening it. I'd ordered the test 3 weeks ago after a counseling session that should have been routine. Tom and Jennifer Wallace, premarital counseling, going over family medical histories, standard stuff. Jennifer mentioned her father's heart condition. Tom talked about his mother's diabetes. Then I pulled out my book, Covenant Promises, the one I'd written about marriage, and I was walking them through chapter 7 when Hannah texted me. Dad heading to health center for that genetic screening. Insurance needs family medical history. What's your blood type again? Positive. I texted back without thinking. Jennifer asked me something about trust in marriage, and I answered on autopilot, but my mind was stuck on that text. Hannah's medical bracelet, the silver one I'd put on her wrist in the hospital 20 minutes after she was born. Sterling silver engraved Hannah Grace Carter, type O negative, allergic to penicillin. That bracelet made a sound. You know the sound I mean if you've ever loved someone who wore one. A jingle. Musical, almost. I'd heard it for 19 years. Tom asked what happens when you realize you don't know your spouse as well as you thought. I told him marriage requires trust. I had no idea I was about to find out the answer myself, because here's what I knew about blood types. A and B can't make O. I learned that in high school biology. Kate was B positive. I was A positive. And Hannah, our daughter, wore O negative on her wrist in permanent engraving. I finished the session, smiled, shook their hands, told them they were going to be fine. Then I sat at my desk and did what any pastor would do when his foundation cracks. I Googled blood type inheritance. The results came back in blue and white and clinical. It is genetically impossible for parents with blood types A and B to produce a child with blood type O without genetic mutation or non-paternity. Non-paternity, that's what they called it. Not betrayal, not 20 years of questions I should have asked. Non-paternity, like a failed business transaction. I ordered the test that afternoon. LabCorp, white cardboard box, DNA paternity test, in clinical blue letters. The cellophane wrapper crinkled when I opened it. Inside were 2 swab kits in separate packets. Sterile plastic smell. The swabs themselves were scratchy, cotton on a stick. You rub the inside of your cheek. Then you seal the envelope, that adhesive sound, final. Kate asked what I was doing in the bathroom for so long. I told her I was fine. I mailed the test the next morning before sunrise. 3 weeks of pretending everything was normal. 3 weeks of watching Kate lead worship. 3 weeks of Hannah texting me from Liberty University about her classes, her roommate Brianna, her youth group responsibilities over Thanksgiving break. 3 weeks of sleeping next to someone and wondering if I'd ever really known her at all. The results came this morning, Tuesday, November 19th, 5:47 a.m. I was alone in my office at Riverside Church. The building was empty. In 3 hours, I'd have to stand in front of 3,200 people and preach about God's faithfulness. I opened the envelope. Probability of paternity, 0%. Probability of sample error, 0.01%. Conclusion, William David Carter is excluded as biological father of Hannah Grace Carter. I read it 3 times, 0%. My coffee cup slipped from my hand, ceramic exploding on hardwood, brown liquid spreading across my desk, soaking the sermon notes, creeping toward the framed photo of Hannah at her high school graduation. I just sat there, watched coffee drip onto the floor, thought about how I'd have to clean that up before the staff arrived. The thing about shattering is that it happens in complete silence. The mug made noise. But inside me, nothing. Just this hollow space where certainty used to be. I picked up my phone, put it down, picked it up again. My mother's voice in my head. David, that girl never looked like you. I'd always dismissed it. Eleanor Carter had never liked Kate, thought she wasn't good enough for a pastor's son, but standing there with coffee soaking into my sermon about faithfulness, I realized my mother had been telling me something I wasn't ready to hear. The test results said Hannah wasn't mine, but I'd been her father for 19 years. How does paperwork change that? 3 weeks earlier, the counseling session, the moment everything started unraveling. Jennifer Wallace had been talking about her grandmother's recipe book when Tom interrupted. Jen, they don't need to hear about your grandma's cookies. Pastor Carter asked about medical history. I smiled. Actually, family stories tell us a lot about family patterns. But Tom's right. Let's make sure we cover the health essentials. I pulled out the family medical history worksheet, standard premarital counseling material. Any hereditary conditions we should know about? Heart disease, cancer, diabetes? Tom nodded. My mom has type 2 diabetes, diagnosed at 56. Jennifer. My dad had a heart attack at 49. He's fine now, but the doctor said it runs in families. Oh, and I'm O negative blood type. They made a big deal about that during the Red Cross drive. That's smart to know, I said. O negative is universal donor, very valuable. I wrote it down on their sheet. Tom, do you know your blood type? A positive, I think. They tested me in college for some insurance thing. Jennifer laughed. We should figure out what our kids might have. Isn't there some chart for that? There is, I said. I pulled up the Punnett square on my laptop, turned the screen toward them. Basic genetics, A and O. I trailed off, stared at the chart. Tom was A. Jennifer was O. Their children could be A or O. My phone buzzed. Hannah's text, Dad, heading to health center for that genetic screening. Insurance needs family medical history. What's your blood type again? A positive, I texted back. But my mind was already doing math I didn't want to do. Kate was B positive. I was A positive. The Punnett square on my laptop showed me 4 possible combinations. A, B, AB, or no, not O. A and B couldn't make O. Pastor Carter? I looked up. Tom and Jennifer were staring at me. Sorry, where were we? The blood type chart, Jennifer said. You froze. Right, yes. I closed my laptop. You know what? We're running over time. Let's schedule a follow-up session next week. You two are doing great work here. They left. I sat in my office. That bracelet, Hannah's bracelet, silver chain engraved in tiny letters. Hannah Grace Carter, type O negative, allergic to penicillin. I put that bracelet on her wrist myself. The clasp was worn now. 19 years of opening and closing. I thought about calling Kate, asking her straight out. But what would I even say? Hey, honey, did you cheat on me before Hannah was born? That's the kind of question that ends a marriage, even if the answer is no. So instead, I ordered the test. And I waited. And I watched my wife lead 3,000 people in worship every Sunday, her voice lifting through the sanctuary, everyone looking at her thinking she was an example of godliness. And all I could think about was that bracelet. Jingle, jingle, jingle. The night I got the results, I came home late. Kate was in the kitchen cutting vegetables for dinner. That unity candle from our wedding sat on the mantel in the living room. 3 white candles on a brass holder, dried wax drips preserved from 20 years ago. David and Catherine, one flesh, June 15th, 2004, engraved on the brass base. Kate dusted it every week, a ritual. You're late, she said without looking up. Board meeting run long? Something like that. She set down the knife, turned around. David, what's wrong? I pulled the envelope from my jacket pocket, set it on the kitchen counter between us. Medical paper, official letterhead. Her eyes dropped to it, then back to my face. What is that? Paternity test results. The color drained from her face. I watched it happen in real time. Pink to pale to gray. David. Hannah's blood type is O negative. You're B positive. I'm A positive. It's genetically impossible, Kate. I looked it up, had it confirmed. Then I ordered the test. My voice was calm. Too calm. 20 years of pastoral counseling had taught me how to keep my voice steady when my world was ending. 0% probability that I'm Hannah's biological father. She gripped the counter. I can explain. Can you? Because I've been trying to figure out how to explain this for 3 weeks, and I keep coming up empty. It was a mistake. One night, our wedding, she nodded, tears streaming now. You took that business call. 2 hours, David, our wedding reception. You disappeared for 2 hours closing some deal, and I was standing there in my wedding dress feeling like an idiot. The guys, your groomsmen, they were kind. They kept me company. We drank champagne. A lot of champagne. And after you finally came back, after the reception ended, after you went to sleep, She stopped, covered her mouth. After I went to sleep, what? It was one of them, one of your groomsmen. It was dark and I was drunk, and I've spent 20 years trying to forget which one it was. I stared at her. This woman I'd been married to for 2 decades, the mother of my child, my partner in ministry, and I realized I'd never really known her at all. You're lying, I said. You know exactly which one. You've known for 20 years. She said it was one of them, one of my brothers. 4 men stood beside me that day, and one of them gave me a daughter while taking everything I thought I knew. I found the journal the next morning. Kate had left for women's ministry meeting, 60 women watching her lead worship completely unaware. I was looking for insurance documents in her nightstand, and there it was, leather-bound, cross-embossed on the front. The leather was soft, the kind of soft that only comes from being handled every single day for 2 decades. It creaked when I opened it. Inside, purple ink, Kate's handwriting. That specific purple she always used. The pages were tissue-thin, Bible paper. They whispered when I turned them. It smelled like vanilla, her perfume. 20 years of vanilla perfume had soaked into the leather. Entry after entry. Dear God, forgive me. Dear God, help me forget. Dear God, let David never find out. I flipped to a page dated June 2009. Hannah would have been 5. Hannah asked me today why she doesn't look like Daddy. She has Marcus's eyes, and I see it every day. She's 5 years old, and already the lie is getting harder. God forgive me, I should tell David. But then I'd lose everything. I prayed for her to look more like David. But God doesn't fix lies. Marcus Reed Thompson, my college roommate, my brother in Christ, current deacon at Riverside Church, owner of Thompson Construction, one of my 4 groomsmen, the man who stood next to me on June 15th, 2004, and promised to support our marriage, the man who slept with my wife on my wedding night, the man who gave me a daughter, 20 years of prayers, 20 years of asking God to forgive her, but she never once thought I deserved to know the truth. She chose God's forgiveness over my right to decide. I confronted them that day. All 4, one after another, started with Timothy's widow. Sarah Brennan lived in a subdivision 20 minutes from church. She answered the door in yoga pants, coffee mug in hand, surprised to see me. Pastor Carter, is everything okay? I need to ask you about Timothy. Her face changed. Timothy had died 15 years ago. Car accident, age 36, left Sarah with 2 kids and a mortgage. The church had rallied around her. I'd personally made sure she was taken care of. What about him? The night of my wedding, June 15th, 2004. Do you remember anything Timothy might have said? Anything unusual? She studied my face, set down her coffee. Come in. We sat in her living room, photos of Timothy everywhere, young, smiling, alive. 3 days before he died, she said slowly, Timothy told me something, made me promise not to tell anyone until after he was gone. I've been carrying it for 15 years, David. I'm sorry. He said he tried to stop it. The wedding night. He said Marcus was obsessed with Kate. He said he knew what happened and he should have told you, but Marcus threatened him. Said if he told, he'd destroy Timothy's career. Timothy was scared, and then he died. And I thought, what good would telling you do now? Christopher was next. Phone call to Oregon. David, good to hear from you, brother. What's up? Chris, I need to ask you about June 15th, 2004. Long pause. Too long. What about it? Kate told me something happened that night with one of you. She won't say who, but I found her journal. Marcus's name is in it. Were you there? Did you see it? Another pause. Then, David, God forgive me, I was too drunk to stop it. I tried. I told Kate to go to bed, told Marcus to leave her alone, but I left the room. I couldn't watch it. And then I moved out here 6 months later because I couldn't look at you anymore, knowing what I knew and not saying anything. So that's why Christopher moved to Oregon, not for the job opportunity, for escape. Rob Sullivan was drinking scotch when I walked into his law office Tuesday afternoon. His receptionist tried to stop me, but I pushed past her. Rob looked up from his desk, expensive suit, smug smile. David Carter, to what do I owe the pleasure? Wedding night, you were there. His smile widened. Are we taking a trip down memory lane? Tell me what you know about Marcus and Kate. He leaned back, sipped his scotch. I know a lot of things, David. I'm a divorce attorney. I know that half of marriages end in betrayal. I know that your little church is built on a foundation of lies. And I know that if you push this, if you make waves, I'll make sure every single person in Charlotte knows Pastor Perfect's wife has been lying to him for 20 years. You're threatening me? I'm offering you wisdom. Resign quietly, walk away, keep your dignity. Or I send a letter to your board. Your choice. He'd already decided. This wasn't a negotiation. It was blackmail. I left his office, drove to the construction site. Marcus's company was building an expansion for Riverside Church. The irony wasn't lost on me. He was literally building on my foundation while hiding the truth. I found him in the site office. Blueprints spread across a table. White paper with blue lines. Marcus's company logo stamped in the corner. The paper made a crackling sound when I slammed my hand down on it. Tell me the truth, all of it. Marcus looked up, saw my face, understood immediately. David, Hannah's blood type, O negative, Kate's journal, your name, Timothy's deathbed confession, Christopher moving to Oregon. It's all there, Marcus, I know. I just need to hear you say it. He sat down, heavily, like his body had given up. How long have you known? Does it matter? I've been paying Kate $500 a month for 19 years. I thought that made it okay. Child support, not official, just transfers to her personal account. You didn't know? I didn't know. $114,000. 19 years of monthly deposits. Evidence of knowledge, evidence of guilt. David, you were my brother. You saved my life in seminary. When my dad kicked me out, you let me sleep on your floor. But that night, that wedding night, I was drunk. And Kate was drunk, and you'd left her alone for hours, and she was crying, and His voice broke. I've been looking at my daughter for 20 years and calling her your kid. You think that didn't kill me? Every baptism, every birthday, every school play, that was my child, and I gave her to you. You didn't give her to me. My voice was ice. You stole 20 years of honesty from both of us. I know. Marcus, you stood beside me. You were my best man. You looked me in the eye and promised to support my marriage. And that same night, I know. Every Sunday you sit in the deacon section. Every board meeting you vote on church policy. Every expansion plan you present with blueprints that say, in honor of the Carter family. You've been building your company on my reputation while knowing you destroyed my family before it even started. Marcus didn't respond, just sat there, staring at blueprints that would never be built. I grabbed the roll of plans, threw them against the wall. Paper crackled, his coffee spilled across the table, staining the dedication plaque. Which one of us is really the father, Marcus? He looked up, eyes red. Both of us, neither of us, I don't know. I left him there, surrounded by blueprints and lies. The letter arrived Thursday morning, plain white envelope, no return address, addressed to the Riverside Church Board of Directors. I found it on my desk when I arrived for staff meeting. The paper inside was generic office stock, printed, no signature. Pastor Carter's daughter is not his biological child. He is known for weeks and has been conducting a private investigation instead of being transparent with church leadership. One of the men involved is a current deacon and major donor. If Pastor Carter does not resign quietly by Sunday, this information will become public. The congregation deserves honest leadership. Rob. It had to be Rob. The phrasing, the threat, the timing. By noon, I was sitting across from 8 board members in the conference room. Glass walls. 45 church staff members could see us meeting, could see their faces, could read body language even if they couldn't hear words. Elder Thompson, no relation to Marcus, thankfully, held up the letter. David, is this true? Which part? Any of it. I could have lied, could have said it was slander, could have bought myself time. Instead, I said Hannah's paternity test came back Tuesday. 0% probability that I'm her biological father. Silence, heavy, suffocating. Pastor Linda Torres leaned forward. David, why didn't you come to us immediately? Because I was trying to understand what I was dealing with. Because my entire life imploded in 3 seconds and I needed to process before I made it everyone else's problem. Is it true about the deacon? Elder Thompson asked. I didn't answer. My mother, Eleanor Carter, advisory board member, spoke up. Her voice was sharp, satisfied. I told you 20 years ago that girl wasn't right for you, David, but you wouldn't listen. Now look what's happened. Mom, this isn't helping, isn't it? The board needs to know what kind of woman has been leading our women's ministry, what kind of deception has been happening under our roof. Linda cut in. Eleanor, your son is the victim here. Let's focus on how we support him, not on vindication. Support? Elder Thompson shook his head. Linda, you understand what this means for the church. David has written 2 books about marriage. He counsels 400 couples. He's scheduled to speak at the national conference in March. If this gets out, when this gets out, every single thing he's built becomes questionable. So what are you suggesting? Linda's voice was steel. That he resign. That he hide the truth to protect our reputation. I'm suggesting we give him the option. Resign quietly. Medical leave, sabbatical, whatever we want to call it. We handle this internally, or, he looked at me, or you tell the truth from the pulpit and we deal with the fallout. The board gave me 72 hours to decide. Resign quietly and they protect the church's reputation, or tell the truth and watch everything I'd built burn. My mother said, David, sometimes protecting the ministry means protecting yourself. I wasn't sure anymore which version of protection was actually protection and which was just cowardice dressed in religious language. Friday afternoon, I came home early. The house was too quiet. I found Kate in the master bathroom, empty pill bottle on the counter, prescription anxiety medication, the rattle of pills or the absence of rattle, white plastic, clinical smell. Kate on the floor, unconscious, breathing shallow. Kate! I checked her pulse. Weak. Grabbed my phone. Called 911. Started talking before the dispatcher could finish her greeting. My wife took pills. I don't know how many. She's breathing, but barely. We need an ambulance. The dispatcher's voice was calm. Professional. Told me what to do. Keep her on her side. Monitor breathing. Don't try to make her vomit. Help is coming. Hannah's car pulled into the driveway. She was home from Liberty University for Thanksgiving break. I heard her footsteps on the stairs. Dad, whose car is... She appeared in the doorway, saw Kate on the floor, saw me on my knees. Oh my God, Mom! She dropped her bag, fell to her knees next to Kate. That bracelet, that silver medical bracelet, jingled as she reached for Kate's wrist to check her pulse. The sound I'd heard for 19 years, the sound that had started all of this. What happened? She took pills. Ambulance is coming. Hannah's hands were shaking. How many? What kind? I don't know. Anxiety medication. The bottle's empty. Sirens getting closer. Hannah smoothed Kate's hair back from her face, whispering, Mom, stay with me. Please stay with me. The paramedics arrived, efficient, professional. Questions I couldn't answer. How many pills? When did she take them? Any other substances? Any history of attempts? No, I said, never. She's never. This is the first time. But was it? How many times had I not been paying attention? How many signs had I missed because I was too busy building a ministry, writing books, counseling other people's marriages while my own was built on sand? They loaded Kate onto a stretcher. Hannah climbed into the ambulance with her. I followed in my car, knowing that when Kate woke up, everything was going to change. Hannah had already asked me twice what was going on. I had about 2 hours before I couldn't avoid answering anymore. The hospital waiting room, Friday evening, fluorescent lights, vending machine humming, Hannah sitting next to me, her leg bouncing, nervous energy, that bracelet jingling with every movement. Dad, tell me what's happening. Your mom is going to be okay. The doctor said... No. I mean, what's happening? Why did she do this? You've been weird for weeks. You came home late Tuesday. Wednesday you barely spoke. Thursday I heard you on the phone with someone and you sounded angry. Now Mom's in the ICU. So tell me, what is happening? I opened my mouth, closed it. How do you tell your daughter that her entire identity is about to shatter? Your mom and I are going through something difficult right now. Marriage stuff. It's complicated. Dad, I'm 19, not 9. Don't patronize me. A nurse appeared. Mr. Carter, your wife is awake. You can see her now. I stood. Hannah stood with me. Just me for now, I said. I need to talk to your mom alone first. Dad... Hannah, please. Give me 30 minutes, then you can see her. I promise. She sat back down, arms crossed, that bracelet catching the fluorescent light. I went into Kate's room. She was pale, IV in her arm, monitors beeping. She looked at me and started crying. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, David. I couldn't keep doing this, pretending, lying, watching you find out piece by piece. It was supposed to be buried forever, and now it's all falling apart, and I just wanted it to stop. Kate, I know you'll never forgive me. I know I've destroyed everything, but please, please don't tell Hannah. Let her think I'm her father's daughter. Let her have that. She doesn't deserve to lose you. She deserves the truth. The truth will destroy her. The lie already has. Kate closed her eyes, tears streaming down her face. Where's Hannah now? Waiting room. She wants to see you. She wants to know what's going on. What are you going to tell her? I don't know yet. I left Kate's room, walked back to the waiting room. Hannah was gone. Her bag was still there, phone charging in the wall outlet. But she was gone. I called her. No answer. Texted. Nothing. Then I saw it. Kate's purse, sitting on the chair next to where Hannah had been sitting, unzipped. And I knew. The journal. I found Hannah in the hospital chapel, small room, stained glass, wooden pews. She was sitting in the front row, Kate's journal open in her lap, leather creaking, pages whispering, that vanilla smell. Hannah, don't. She didn't look up, just kept reading, page after page. 20 years of confessions, 20 years of guilt, 20 years of prayers for forgiveness. I sat down next to her, didn't speak, just waited. Finally, she stopped on a page. Her finger traced the purple ink. This is dated my 5th birthday. Hannah asked me today why she doesn't look like Daddy. She has Marcus's eyes, and I see it every day. She's 5 years old, and already the lie is getting harder. God forgive me, I should tell David, but then I'd lose everything. Her voice was flat, emotionless, the kind of flat that comes before breaking. Marcus, Uncle Marcus, Dad, tell me this doesn't mean what I think it means. Hannah, tell me. She finally looked at me, eyes red. Tell me Mom didn't sleep with Uncle Marcus. Tell me Uncle Marcus isn't my biological father. Tell me the last 19 years of my life aren't a complete lie. I couldn't tell her any of those things. She stood, dropped the journal. It hit the floor with a soft thud, leather on tile. Every time she called you Mom, every time I trusted you, every time I defended this family to my friends who thought pastors' kids were fake, you knew. And you let me live in a fairy tale because it was easier for you. Hannah, I didn't know until Tuesday. Not you. Her. Mom. She knew. For 20 years she knew. And she chose keeping her lie over my whole life. She walked to the front of the chapel, stood in front of the small altar, stained glass Jesus looking down at her. That bracelet caught the colored light. Red, blue, purple. This bracelet, she said, type O negative. You gave this to me in the hospital when I was born. You were there first, not Mom. The nurses said you held me for 20 minutes before Mom even woke up from the epidural. And you put this on my wrist. You chose what was engraved on it. I did. So for 19 years I've been wearing the wrong medical information. What if Marcus has some genetic condition I don't know about? What if there's a heart problem or cancer risk, or something that doctors should have known about? Mom's lie didn't just mess up our family, Dad. It put my life at risk. I hadn't thought about that. Medical history, genetic screening, hereditary conditions. Hannah was right. Kate's deception had been more than emotional betrayal. It had been medical endangerment. Hannah turned around. Is Uncle Marcus really... Yes? Does he know? He's known the whole time. And he just, what? Watched me grow up? Came to my birthday parties? My baptism? My high school graduation? All while knowing? He's been paying your mother $500 a month for 19 years. Hannah's face twisted, rage and grief and disbelief all at once. He paid her like child support? And nobody thought maybe I should know. Maybe I should have a say in any of this? Hannah. No. She picked up her phone. I need to get out of here. Hannah, wait. Dad. She stopped at the chapel door, didn't turn around. I'm not saying I don't love you. I'm not saying you're not my dad. But right now I need to figure out who I am before I figure out who we are. She left. That bracelet jingled all the way down the hall until the sound faded into nothing. Saturday, midnight, I sat alone in my living room, wedding video playing on the TV. The VHS tape was in one of those white cardboard sleeves. The label had yellowed, that chemical yellow that old paper gets. Kate's handwriting in black Sharpie. Carter wedding, June 15th, 2004. When I pulled the tape out, it smelled like basement, like mold and time. I slid it into the VCR, remember those? And the tracking was bad, static snow at the edges. And when it started playing, Kate's laugh came through tinny and distant, like it was coming from another universe. The ceremony. Young David, 28 years old, standing at the altar, 4 groomsmen beside me. Marcus right there, best man, my brother. Kate walking down the aisle. Beautiful. 26 years old, smiling. We said our vows. I meant every word. Forsaking all others, I thee wed. The reception. Everyone dancing, everyone drinking. And then there it was, young me pulling out my phone. The deal I'd been working on. Had to take this call. Kate's face. Disappointed, but understanding. Pastor's wife. She understood the demands. I watched myself disappear from my own wedding reception. The video timestamp 8:47 p.m. I didn't come back until 10:52 p.m. 2 hours and 5 minutes, closing a deal on my wedding night. The camera panned to Kate standing alone, looking lost. And then Marcus appeared, handed her champagne, made her laugh. She relaxed. The other groomsmen joined them. Rob, Christopher, Timothy. They kept her company. They danced with her. They filled the space I'd left empty. And Marcus, I saw it now. The way he looked at her. The way his hand lingered on her lower back during their dance. The way he bent close to say something in her ear and she laughed. The way he refilled her glass. Again and again. The camera caught me coming back. Phone in hand, still talking. Tie loosened. Kate saw me, ran over. Wanted her first dance. I held up one finger. 1 more minute. Young David on that screen had no idea what was coming. Young Kate on that screen was 3 hours away from betraying him, and young Marcus on that screen was already planning it. I rewound the tape, watched Kate's laugh again. Tinny, distant, mechanical whir of the VCR. I must have rewound it 100 times that night. The signs were there. I just never looked. If you're facing a choice right now, whether to tell the full truth to everyone and risk destroying what you love, or protect the people around you by staying quiet and keeping details private, let me know. Type truth if you think honesty, no matter the cost. Type protect if you think some secrets are worth keeping. Because here's the thing, there's no clean answer here. Both choices have costs. I had 1 week to decide which cost I could live with. Sunday morning, I didn't go to church, first time in 20 years. Instead, I drove to Marcus's construction site, empty on Sunday, just us. I found him in his office. Same blueprints still on the table, coffee stain visible from where I'd thrown them Thursday. I need to see the financial records. Marcus looked up, hollow-eyed. He hadn't slept either. David, the monthly payments to Kate, you said $500 for 19 years. I want to see the records. He pulled out his phone, opened his banking app, started scrolling. Here. Transfer after transfer, $500, first one dated July 2005. Hannah would have been 6 months old. Most recent, October 2024, 19 years and 3 months, 116 payments. That's $58,000, I said. More. I increased it to $1,000 starting in 2019 when she went to college, and I paid for her car, her insurance, books. I've been funding my daughter's life from the shadows for years while you got to raise her. While I got to raise her? My voice was ice. You say that like it was a privilege you gave me. Marcus, you didn't give me anything. You took 20 years of honesty. You took my right to decide. You took my daughter's right to know her own medical history. And you're standing here acting like you're some kind of martyr because you wrote checks? I know. No, you don't know. You know what it's like to send money and walk away. You have no idea what it's like to walk the floor at 3 a.m. with colic, to teach someone to ride a bike, to explain why her goldfish died, to help her with algebra homework, to drive her to youth group every Wednesday for 6 years, to pay for braces and band uniforms and prom dresses. That's what being a father costs. Not $500 a month, time, presence, choosing her every single day. Marcus sat down heavily. You're right. And now I have to decide whether to tell 3,200 people the truth or resign quietly and let them think I'm taking a medical leave. Because Rob sent an anonymous letter to the board threatening to expose everything if I don't step down. So tell me, Marcus, which one of us is really the father? You are. Then why does Hannah have your eyes? He didn't answer. I left, drove home. Kate was being released from psychiatric hold later that day. Hannah had texted that she was staying with her roommate Brianna's family for Thanksgiving, and I had 48 hours to decide whether I was brave enough to stand in front of my congregation and tell them the truth. Monday evening, emergency board meeting, round 2, same conference room, same glass walls, same 45 staff members watching from a distance. Pastor Linda Torres spoke first. "I've been praying about this all weekend, and I think," she looked at me, "I think the congregation needs to hear that even pastors face betrayal. They need to hear that even people who write books about covenant can have their covenants broken. Give them a sermon about what you do when the foundation cracks." Elder Thompson shook his head. "Linda, that's idealistic. The reality is that if David stands up there and admits his wife cheated and his daughter isn't his biological child, we lose half our congregation. The media will crucify us. The denomination will distance themselves. Our missions funding will dry up. We're talking about real consequences for real people." "So we lie?" Linda's voice was sharp. "We protect the ministry." My mother, Eleanor, spoke up. "David, I've been thinking, your father died at 48, heart attack, you're 52, you could take a medical leave, stress, exhaustion, perfectly reasonable, 6 months, maybe a year, let this blow over, come back when things have settled." "And Kate?" I asked. "Kate resigns from women's ministry, medical reasons, depression, also reasonable." "And Hannah?" Silence. What do I tell Hannah about why her father suddenly disappeared from the pulpit? Elder Thompson leaned forward, the board member holding up the copy of my book, Covenant Promises, published 2019, dedication page, "To Kate, who showed me what covenant means." 200 pages about how I built a successful marriage. Chapter 7, Trust as Foundation. I've signed hundreds of copies of this book, used it in counseling with 400 couples over 5 years. What do I tell all of them when they find out the dedication was a lie? Linda said quietly, "You tell them the truth doesn't destroy covenant. Lies do." The board voted 5-3. I could resign quietly, or I could give one sermon, one honest sermon about what happens when covenant breaks, and then step down. They give me 3 months of transition. Associate pastors would take over. I could leave with dignity instead of scandal. Pastor Linda said, "The congregation needs to hear that even pastors face betrayal. Give them a sermon about what you do when covenant breaks. Give them permission to survive their own broken covenants." I had 1 week to decide if I was brave enough to tell 3,200 people the truth. Tuesday morning, coffee shop near Liberty University, Hannah agreed to meet me. First time I'd seen her since the hospital chapel Friday night. She was wearing the bracelet. I noticed it first thing, silver catching the morning light, jingle when she stirred her coffee. "Thanks for coming," I said. "Brianna's family's been great, but I can't hide forever." She looked tired, eyes red. "I talked to Mom yesterday on the phone. She apologized. Said she never meant for me to find out. Which is maybe the most insulting part. She was fine with me never knowing. Hannah, do I even have the right medical information on this thing?" She held up her wrist. The bracelet spun. "Type O negative, allergic to penicillin. But what about Marcus's family? Does he have a genetic condition I should know about? Heart problems? Cancer risk? What if I need a kidney someday and I'm looking for donors in the wrong family tree?" "I don't know. We'll find out. I'll make Marcus give us his complete medical history." "Will you?" She looked at me. "Because you're not very good at making Marcus do anything, are you, Dad? He's been paying Mom for 19 years and you didn't know. He's been building your church expansion and you didn't know. He's been sitting in the deacon section every Sunday and you didn't know. So forgive me if I don't have a lot of faith in your ability to make Marcus do what he should have done 2 decades ago." She was right, and it hurt. "Hannah, I know you need time to figure out who you are, but I need you to know something. I held you 20 minutes after you were born. Your mom was asleep from the epidural. It was just you and me. I counted your fingers. 10. Counted your toes. 10. And I made promises. I promised I'd keep you safe. I promised I'd show up. I promised I'd choose you every single day. Marcus gave you DNA. I gave you promises I kept. She stirred her coffee, bracelet jingling. I'm not saying no, Dad. I'm just saying I need time. Fair enough. Wednesday morning, attorney's office, not Rob's. I'd found someone 2 towns over, someone who didn't know me as Pastor Carter, just David Carter, husband, soon-to-be ex-husband. The attorney was younger than me, professional, efficient. She slid papers across her desk. North Carolina is a no-fault state, which makes this straightforward, irreconcilable differences. We file, we serve, we wait a year for the separation period, then finalize. Assets will be divided equitably. Are there minor children? My daughter is 19, adult, so custody isn't an issue. That simplifies things. She made notes. You mentioned on the phone that there's a restraining order you want to file as well. Against one of the other parties involved, Rob Sullivan. He's an attorney here in Charlotte. He's threatened to publicly disclose private information unless I resign from my position. Blackmail. She wrote that down. Do you have evidence, recordings, written threats? Anonymous letter sent to my board, but I can prove it came from him. Specific phrasing, legal terminology. He's the only one with motive and means. That might be enough. We'll file for a temporary restraining order. No contact, no communication. If he violates it, there are consequences. She looked up. Mr. Carter, I have to ask. You're a public figure, senior pastor. This is going to be, I know. The media will cover it. Your church will fracture. Some people will support you. Some won't. Are you prepared for that? I thought about Hannah sitting in that coffee shop, that bracelet catching the light. I'm not saying no, Dad. I'm just saying I need time. I'm prepared to tell the truth. Whatever comes after that, I'll deal with it. She nodded. Then let's begin. Thursday, I sat in my study at home, empty house. Kate was staying with her sister in Florida. Temporary arrangement while we figured out what came next. Hannah was back at Liberty University. Brianna's family had driven her back to campus. She'd texted me. Made it safely, still processing. I love you. 3 words. I love you. Not I love you, Dad, just I love you. Like she wasn't sure what to call me anymore. My sermon notes sat in front of me. Blank page, cursor blinking. Sunday was in 3 days. 3,200 people would be in that sanctuary. 8,000 more watching the live stream. All of them expecting Pastor David Carter to deliver another encouraging message about faith, about trust, about God's faithfulness. I opened my desk drawer, pulled out the paternity test envelope, LabCorp letterhead, official seal, probability of paternity 0%. I could still resign, medical leave, stress, exhaustion, let someone else handle the Sunday services, fade into the background, protect what was left of my reputation, or I could stand up there and tell them the truth. My phone rang. Pastor Linda Torres. David, how are you holding up? I don't know yet. Have you decided about Sunday? I'm writing the sermon now. Long pause. What are you going to say? The truth. All of it. No names. But the truth. The board won't like that. I know. David. Her voice was gentle. The congregation needs this. They need to see that even pastors are human. Even pastors get betrayed. Even pastors have to figure out what faith looks like when everything falls apart. You standing up there broken is going to help more people than you standing up there perfect ever did. Linda, what if I lose everything? What if you gain something better? After we hung up, I started writing. Not the sermon I'd planned. The sermon I needed to give. Saturday night, I burned the book, my personal copy of Covenant Promises, the one I'd kept on my nightstand for 5 years. Hardcover, embossed gold wedding rings. Dedication page. to Kate, who showed me what covenant means. I took it to the fireplace, lit the kindling, watched the flames grow. Then I opened the book to the dedication page, tore it out, fed it to the fire, watched the paper curl and blacken and disappear, then the rest, page by page, chapter by chapter. Chapter 7, Trust as Foundation. The chapter I'd quoted in counseling sessions, the chapter I'd built my ministry on, gone. The book burned hot, paper and glue and thread and lies. When it was done, I collected the ashes, put them in a small ceramic urn, set it on my desk next to the sermon notes. Tomorrow I'd tell 3,200 people that the foundation had cracked, that trust could be broken, that covenant wasn't about perfection. It was about choosing to stay even when leaving would be easier. And then I'd rebuild, on bedrock this time, not sand. Sunday morning, November 24th, Thanksgiving week. I arrived at Riverside Church at 7 a.m. The building was empty, quiet. I walked through the sanctuary, 3,200 seats. In 3 hours, they'd all be full. I went to my office, put on my robe, the one I wore every Sunday, black with green stole, pastoral, professional. I looked at myself in the mirror, 52 years old, gray at the temples, lines around my eyes, 20 years of ministry, 20 years of marriage, 19 years of raising a daughter who wasn't biologically mine. Who was I when all of that was stripped away? I picked up the paternity test envelope, put it in my robe pocket, felt the weight of it against my chest. Then I walked to the sanctuary. By 9:30, the sanctuary was filling. I could hear them from the side room, voices, laughter, someone practicing scales on the organ, normal Sunday morning sounds. At 9:45, I looked through the crack in the door, saw Marcus, sitting in the deacons section, same place he'd sat for 20 years, his wife next to him, his 3 sons scattered throughout the sanctuary. He looked hollowed out, gray. Rob Sullivan was in the back row, arms crossed, smirking. He thought I was going to resign, thought I was going to take the easy way out. Christopher had flown in from Oregon. I'd called him Thursday, told him I was telling the truth Sunday, asked if he wanted to be there. He said yes. He was sitting in the middle section, head bowed, praying maybe. Timothy's widow, Sarah Brennan, was in her usual spot, 3rd row on the left, memorial section, where families of the deceased sat. She'd sent me a text yesterday. Timothy would be proud of what you're doing. And Hannah, 3rd row center, next to Brianna. She'd driven down from Liberty University this morning, texted me at 6 a.m. I'll be there. You don't have to do this alone. She was wearing the bracelet. I could see it from here, silver catching the sanctuary lights. 10 a.m. The service began. Worship team led 3 songs, announcements, offering, all the normal rhythms of a Sunday service. Then Pastor Linda stepped to the podium. This morning, Pastor Carter has asked for extended time for his message. We're going to honor that request. There will be no closing worship, just the word, Pastor Carter. I stood, walked to the pulpit, 3,200 faces looking at me. The live stream camera's red light blinking, 8,000 people watching online. I pulled the paternity test envelope from my pocket, set it on the pulpit, LabCorp logo visible. 20 years ago, I began, I stood at this altar and made promises. I promised to be faithful. I promised to be honest. I promised to build my life and ministry on truth. This morning, I'm going to tell you what happens when you find out your foundation was built on sand. The sanctuary was silent, completely silent. You could have heard a pin drop. 3 weeks ago, I opened this envelope. I touched it. It's a paternity test, standard genetic screening for a medical procedure. I expected it to confirm what I'd always known, that I'm the father of my daughter, Hannah. Instead, it told me something else, 0% probability of paternity. Hannah Grace Carter is not my biological child. Gasps, murmurs. I saw people looking at Hannah. She sat perfectly still, face forward, that bracelet catching light. For 19 years, I've been her father. I held her when she was born. I walked her at 3 a.m. I taught her to ride a bike. I helped with homework. I drove her to youth group every Wednesday for 6 years. I paid for braces and college. I baptized her in the river when she was 12 years old. I did all the things fathers do, and I did them believing she was mine by blood. I paused. Let that sink in. But blood doesn't make you a father. Presence does. Sacrifice does. Choosing someone every single day does. And here's what I learned in the last 3 weeks. I am Hannah's father. Not because of DNA, but because I showed up. And I'm going to keep showing up, even now, even after finding out the truth. More murmurs. I saw Elder Thompson in the board section. Face tight, disapproving. This wasn't the resignation speech he'd wanted. Some of you are wondering how this happened. I'm not going to give you names. I'm not going to destroy people publicly. But I will tell you this. My wife was unfaithful on our wedding night, June 15th, 2004. I had taken a business call during our reception. 2 hours. I left her alone. And in that space, in that absence, something happened that changed everything. I saw Kate's empty seat in the front row, where she always sat during services. The worship leader's chair, empty now. She was in Florida, getting help, working through 20 years of guilt. I wrote a book about marriage. I held up covenant promises, the one from my office, not my burned copy. I've counseled 400 couples. I've preached about faithfulness and trust and keeping promises. And this whole time, my own marriage was built on deception. Does that make everything I've said wrong? Does that make my counsel worthless? I looked at the congregation, saw people crying, saw people angry, saw people confused. Here's what I think. I think truth matters more than reputation. I think showing up matters more than being perfect. And I think covenant isn't about never breaking. It's about what you do after the breaking happens. I pulled out my sermon notes, the ones I'd written Thursday night. We don't break covenants lightly in this family. That's what I've always said. That's what I've taught my daughter. And for years, I thought that meant we don't get divorced. We don't give up. We stay together no matter what. But I was wrong. We don't break covenants lightly means we don't break them without facing the truth first. We don't pretend they're intact when they're shattered. We don't lie to ourselves about what's broken. I looked at Hannah. She was crying. Brianna had her arm around her. My daughter asked me this week if I'm still her dad, and I told her yes, because being a father isn't about biology. It's about choosing someone every single day. Even when it's hard, even when you find out the foundation wasn't what you thought. You find bedrock, you rebuild, and you choose them again. The sanctuary was still silent, but people were leaning forward, listening. Some of you are going to leave this church after today. Some of you are going to think I should have kept this private. Some of you are going to question everything I've ever taught you, and that's okay, because the truth is, I'm questioning everything too. But here's what I'm not questioning. God is real. Redemption is possible. And truth, no matter how devastating, is the only foundation worth building on. I held up the paternity test envelope. This piece of paper destroyed what I thought I knew, but it also showed me what was real. Hannah is my daughter, not because of this test, but in spite of it. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life being the father she deserves, the one who tells the truth, the one who shows up, the one who stays. I folded my notes, looked out at 3,200 people. I'm stepping down as senior pastor, effective immediately. Associate pastors will take over. I'll be available for transition for 3 months. After that, I'll be starting something new. A ministry for people whose foundations have cracked. For people rebuilding on bedrock instead of sand. For people who need to know that broken doesn't mean finished. I picked up the paternity test envelope, held it up. This isn't the end of my story. It's just the beginning of a new chapter. One built on truth. I stepped back from the pulpit. Silence. Then, someone in the back started clapping. Slow, steady. I looked. Christopher, standing, applauding, tears streaming down his face. Then someone else, Sarah Brennan, standing, clapping, then Pastor Linda, then more. Then half the sanctuary was standing. Some crying, some clapping, some just standing in solidarity. The other half sat, arms crossed, judging, leaving mentally even if they hadn't physically walked out yet. I looked at Hannah. She was standing. That bracelet caught the light as she raised her hands and clapped, slow, deliberate, choosing me, in front of everyone. And I knew whatever I'd lost, I'd gained something infinitely more valuable. Truth. Monday, I met with Marcus for the last time. Public park, neutral ground. I'm resigning from the deacon board, he said, selling my company. My wife knows everything now. She's filing for divorce. My sons won't talk to me. I'm sorry for that. Are you? For your sons, yes. They didn't deserve this. He nodded. Hannah deserves to know her medical history. I made an appointment with my doctor, complete genetic screening, heart conditions, cancer markers, everything. I'll send you the results. Thank you. David. His voice cracked. I know I don't have the right to ask this, but when she's ready, if she's ever ready, can I meet her? Not as Uncle Marcus, as I don't know what, but can I at least tell her I'm sorry? I thought about that, about Hannah sitting in the coffee shop asking for time, about her standing in church clapping for me, about the choice she'd made. That's not my decision to make. It's hers. When she's ready, I'll ask her. But Marcus, don't expect forgiveness. Don't expect a relationship. She might never want to see you, and you need to be okay with that. I know. You took 19 years from me, from her, from Kate, in a different way. You don't get to take anything else, not even her guilt. If she chooses to forgive you, that's her gift to give, not your right to demand. He stood. I really did love her, you know. Kate. From the moment I met her. But she chose you, and I should have respected that. Yes, you should have. He walked away. I watched him go, felt nothing, not anger, not forgiveness, just nothing. Some betrayals are so complete that feeling anything at all seems like giving them more than they deserve. Thursday, Thanksgiving Day, the river where I'd baptized Hannah at age 12. She'd called me Wednesday night. Dad, can we meet tomorrow? There's something I want to do. We stood on the riverbank, water flowing, cold November air. Hannah held the urn with the ashes of my burned book. She'd asked me to bring it. I've been thinking, she said, about what covenant means, about what family means. And I realized something. We don't break covenants lightly in this family. You taught me that, but it doesn't mean what I thought it meant. She opened the urn, poured some ashes into her hand, let them slip through her fingers into the water. It means we don't break them without counting the cost. We don't lie to keep them. We don't pretend they're intact when they're shattered, and we don't stay in covenants that were broken from the beginning by someone else's choices. She poured more ashes. This book, you wrote it believing something that wasn't true, so we're letting it go, and we're building something new. I poured the rest of the ashes into the water, watched them float downstream, disappear. Hannah Grace, I said, and my voice cracked. I held you 20 minutes after you were born. I walked you at 3 a.m. with colic for 6 months. I taught you to ride a bike. I scared away your nightmares. I paid for your braces. Marcus gave you DNA. I gave you everything else. You call me whatever feels true, but I'm not going anywhere. She smiled, crying. Dad, I call you Dad. She pulled something from her pocket, small velvet pouch, opened it, showed me a charm, silver, engraved. I had this made Tuesday. She unclasped her medical bracelet, the one I'd put on her wrist 19 years ago, added the charm, closed the clasp, held up her wrist. The new charm read, Chosen Daughter, HGC. That bracelet jingled, the sound I'd heard for 19 years, but different now, better. Blood doesn't make you mine, Dad. Her voice was steady, strong. Choosing me every single day makes you mine, and I'm choosing you too, every day. We stood at the river's edge, same place I'd baptized her, same place I'd welcomed her into faith. Do you remember what I said at your baptism? I asked. You said, today you're new. Nothing from before defines you, only what you choose from here forward. Do you believe that? I do now. I took her hand. We stepped into the river. Cold water, November current. She laughed, I laughed, both of us crying. Hannah Grace Carter, I said, water up to our knees. I baptize you, again, not into a new faith, but into a new understanding. You are chosen. You are loved. You are mine, not by blood, by choice. I dipped her back. River water, baptism, renewal, new creation. When she came up, she was laughing and crying and shivering. That bracelet caught sunlight, silver and new charm together. Medical information and chosen identity, both true, both hers. We stood there, father and daughter, river flowing around us, ashes downstream, past behind us. We don't break covenants lightly, she said. Her voice echoed across the water, transformed the words, made them new. And I choose this covenant every day. David and Hannah redefined what family means, not who you're born to, but who shows up. If you've built your own chosen family, tell me about them in the comments. Tell me who chose you when biology didn't. And if this story moved you, subscribe. I tell stories about truth, redemption, and what happens when everything you thought you knew falls apart. I'll see you in the next one. 6 months later, I got a text from Hannah. Dad, Marcus sent me his medical records, genetic screening. Turns out he has a hereditary heart condition. So do I. Doctors caught it early because we knew to look. Treatable, manageable. And here's the thing. If we'd never found out the truth, I might have died young like his grandfather did. Undiagnosed. Unexpected. So even though this whole thing was terrible, it might have saved my life. Funny how that works. I texted back, truth usually does save us, even when it hurts first. How are you feeling? Good. Medication's working, seeing a cardiologist regularly. Also, I had coffee with Marcus last week, not calling him dad or anything, but he apologized, really apologized. And I told him I'm working on forgiveness. Not there yet, but working on it. I'm proud of you. Love you, Dad. I set down my phone, looked around my new office, smaller than Riverside Church, rented space in a strip mall between a coffee shop and a yoga studio. Sign on the door, Bedrock Ministry for those rebuilding from the foundation up. 15 people had shown up for our first meeting. People whose marriages had ended in betrayal. People whose families had secrets. People whose foundations had cracked and who needed to know broken didn't mean finished. By month 6, we had 75 regulars, a support group, a community. A church of the wounded building something new on honest ground. My phone buzzed again. Pastor Linda, board approved your part-time return to counseling at Riverside, 2 days a week. Your specialty, covenant repair after betrayal. Interested? I smiled. Typed back, very interested. Because here's what I'd learned. You can't repair what you won't admit is broken. You can't rebuild on sand. And you can't help people heal if you're still pretending your own wounds don't exist. The man who stays is more of a father than the man who started. That's not just about paternity. That's about everything.